Well, we made it. It's day 12 of the 12 Days of Adam Sandler. And Jack and Jill was sort of the final boss, seeing that many critics have referred to it as one of the worst movies ever made. Though at first glance it may lend itself to a review like that, I certainly felt that way the first time I heard about this movie. And I wasn't necessarily excited going into it. But I have to say, I came to realize how smart this movie actually is. And it's not that I ever hated it, it's more that I don't think I understood it yet. Because Jack and Jill is a post-ironic masterpiece. And is completely self-aware of all of its shortcomings and ridiculousness. Every critique I've ever made of a Happy Madison or Adam Sandler movie is here and stretched and pushed to their limits in this movie. In other words, it's Adam Sandler doing a parody of himself. The humor is consistently crude to drastic proportions, and the slapstick-style comedy is a torn callback to Chaplin-esque slip and falls. From wacky voices from Adam Sandler to kids with no filter, gross-out humor, racist portrayals that would make Jeff Dunham cringe. It's all here in Jack and Jill. Sandler is aware of how to make an audience cringe and how to make a movie that's intentionally bad, looking at how many subpar comedies he's been involved with over the years. And whether it's successful in its intentions of pushing irony to the extreme or not is another story. Again, looking at its bad critical reception, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 3%, IMDb gave it 3 out of 10 stars, I think. The list goes on, but I don't think Johnny Depp or Al Pacino would have been involved in a legitimate dumpster fire like The Longest Yard or 50 First Dates. Seeing that Pacino has only been in 2 other comedies besides Jack and Jill, they all knew what was happening, and the movie itself acknowledges the absurdity when Sandler is first told that the company wants Al Pacino to do a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, and he goes, Al Pacino? Like the Godfather Al Pacino? If there was one movie that needed a Criterion Collection edition, it's Jack and Jill. Because I would love to see behind the scenes and watch it with commentary and get a glimpse into Sandler and Steve Corrin's minds and the thought process behind a movie like this. So, for those of you not familiar with this movie, Sandler plays twins, both Jack and Jill. Jack works in advertising and is trying to get Al Pacino to do a commercial for them, or else he might lose Dunkin' Donuts as a client. At the same time, his sister Jill is in town for Thanksgiving. She brings her pet bird, Poopsie, with her, which isn't important to the story, but it's a reoccurring gag, so I have to mention it. Jill makes Thanksgiving awkward by insulting the guests with racist remarks and accuses a homeless man of not actually being homeless. Jill wants to explore the town, so they take her to be a contestant on The Price is Right, where she spins the wheel and it catches her arm and she falls to the floor in a very fake-looking slapstick fall that, again, is intended to be stupid, and they call back to it to emphasize the stupidity of it. They also take Jill to ride a horse where the horse collapses out from under her. Jack sets up online dating for his twin sister, which leads to an awful date and is overall unsuccessful. Jack takes Jill to a basketball game where they run into Al Pacino, and Al sends Jill a hot dog that has "Call Me" written in ketchup and mustard on it. Jill is overall uninterested in the movie star, despite his pursuit of her. Jill decides to stay with the family through Hanukkah, and they take Jill on a cruise so Jack can maybe get Jill together with Al, because Al told Jack he would not do the commercial unless he could hook him up with Jill. However, Jill's lack of interest in Pacino leads to Jack to dress up as his sister and has a romantic evening with Pacino. When Jill realizes that she was only invited to the cruise to get Jack the commercial, she goes home. As she eats dinner at a restaurant alone, she gets mocked by people from her hometown, which leads to an epic fight between Jill and one of the women mocking her. Jack comes to apologize to Jill when Al Pacino shows up to the restaurant as well, to tell Jill that there is someone else who loves her besides him, Felipe, the gardener from earlier in the movie. Then in the final scene, we finally get to see the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Pacino in the internet famous Dunkachino sketch, which Pacino instructs Jack to burn all copies. So there are some surprise cameos like Jared from Subway, which is and the ShamWow guy, which is also kind of cringe. I had to mention that because it genuinely surprised me, and I think it adds to the surrealness of this movie. You like my hair flip there? That was nice. Again, lots of fart and poop jokes. I mean, from the opening credits, there's fart jokes. And the difference between these fart jokes and Grown Ups 2 fart jokes is that they're self-aware. They're made to be stupid. And another difference between this and a movie like Grown Ups 2 is quotable lines. There's so many great lines in Jack and Jill, which I felt was something that was lacking in the other comedies on the 12 Days of Sandler movie list. I said Meyerowitz stories set the bar higher for Sandler acting-wise, and I'll go ahead and say that Jack and Jill sets the bar higher for him comedy-wise. He hasn't done anything that has made me laugh nearly as hard as Jack and Jill did, with the absurdity and how tongue-in-cheek it was. It's so well done, and I really admire the self-deprecation on Sandler's part to make fun of himself in this way. If I'm correct, and this is ironic, which I'm pretty sure I'm right. Anyway, so final thoughts here. Let me go to the final page of my notes. Jack and Jill is the quintessential Happy Madison film. They perfected their formula to bring us the most absurd comedy they've produced to date. This movie is bad by design, and though its ironic nature may not be completely transparent to the audience, its intentions are ambitious and deserves to go down as one of the best movies ever made. Best, worst movies ever made. Let me make that clear. This is an essential watch for Sandler heads, anti-humor fans, and ironic comedy fans.